What's up, guys? It's Pine Tree K, and I went into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with pretty high expectations, and I'm happy to say most of them were actually met. These games were actually really good. Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus as well have removed the curse of mediocre games that Pokemon has had for a while now. We went forward with a lot of improvements made by Legends Arceus and did an astronomically better job than Sword and Shield. Obviously, this video will contain a lot of major spoilers for Scarlet and Violet, so please don't watch it until you've at least completed all the main stories. Of course, Scarlet and Violet also have their fair share of negatives, like all Pokemon games do, so I'll get those out of the way before talking about how great these games are. Number one, the state that this game was in when it was first released was absolutely unacceptable for a franchise as big as Pokemon. The game was super glitchy and had really bad performance, and it took nearly 2 weeks for a patch to be released. Everyone already knows this, but Pokemon really needs to start allowing itself to delay the release of games until they've actually been polished. Number two, the lack of post-game content is pretty disappointing. Once you've beaten all 4 storylines, there's not much to do. You get to rematch all the gym leaders at their full power, which is pretty cool. But I ended up sweeping most of them, and it really became nothing more than just like a checklist that I wanted to complete because I thought there would be more post-game content. The Academy Ace tournament was fine. You can do a bunch of 5-star Tera raids to unlock the 6-star ones if you hate yourself. And after that, there's nothing. I don't know why, but these games don't even have any sort of battle facility. Like, Sword and Shield had the battle tower. Uh, Sun and Moon had the battle tree. Like, every Pokemon, Black and White had a battle subway. Every Pokemon game has a battle facility. Even Legends Arceus had one. But Scarlet and Violet doesn't. Number 3, the towns, villages, and cities in this game have way too many unopenable doors. There's no NPC homes that you can break and enter into, which is like a staple of Pokemon games, so why isn't it here? And like most of the shops don't have an interior, which is like most of them you just like walk in, just like menu, like really, come on. Number 4, there's no level scaling, which drastically reduces the amount of practical options when it comes to the order you fight the gym leaders and the other bosses in, even though like this game's whole thing is you can like go fight them in any order. There's not that many practical orders you can do unless you want to have like a super unbalanced game. I'm actually kind of conflicted on this one though, because like it is pretty cool to go to a higher level area and just see how strong the bosses there are, and then like come back and grind to beat them. Number 5, the team star bosses bases were cool, but the whole automatic horde battling thing that you had to do to fight the bosses is like mind-numbingly easy. You have 10 minutes to do it, when most of the time it's done in like 2 or 1 minute because it's so easy. And yeah. Number 6, for some god-awful reason, they decided to completely remove the ability to aim where you throw your Pokeball that was in Legends Arceus. Like, this game has a caught-off guard mechanic, just like Legends has the caught unawares mechanic, which is like the same thing, but it's stupidly annoying to take advantage of it because the direction you throw your Pokeball is completely out of your control. Like, no wonder Nimona has trouble throwing Pokeballs. It's absolutely terrible in this game. Number 7, they removed set mode, which has been like the closest thing Pokemon has had to a consistent hard mode in every game. And I know you can just like say no when asked you to switch out after beating the opponent's Pokemon, but like, what was the point of removing it? It was there, and they got rid of it. How does that benefit anybody? And also number 8, which is the last one, I absolutely despise the Tera raid battles. The 5-star ones are like pretty much impossible without friends. And the way it's based on like real life time instead of in-game turns is super annoying because you can't, like, you have to wait and watch all the animations play, and that like takes down the clock, and you can't even turn animations off, which is like another option that they removed. Actually, Legends Arceus removed it, but like, this is a mainline game, so they should have brought it back. So you have to watch every move being used, and that makes the clock tick down even more. It's so annoying, and it's also like it's super finicky. Like when like you're using multiple moves, like it just like the buttons are there, but you can't press it. It's so weird. Tera raid battles suck. Dynamax raids were better, or one of the few things that Sword and Shield actually did better than Scarlet and Violet. But the terrestrial mechanic is better than Dynamax. I'll get to that later. Alright, that's it for the major issues I have with Scarlet and Violet, so now I'll get started saying positive things about the game because, like, there's a lot of good stuff in this game. Alright, the story. Now, I know, like, literally no one plays Pokemon for the story. The writing in these games is, like, usually pretty terrible, with a few exceptions, like Black and White and Sun and Moon. Those games had pretty good stories, but this time around they actually did a like a really good job. Splitting the game up into 3 stories instead of having like one linear path allowed them to each have like a main focus on each of the stories without like them constantly interrupting and intersecting each other. But once you've like completed all of them, you and all the other like rivals that you met in your journey, you head down into Area 0, which is really cool. First of all, like I'll start with Arvin's story. Arvin's story with his like Mastiff is like really sweet. And like yeah, it's a dog. I like dogs. The Team Star storyline with Penny was also really cool, but it felt a little inconsistent. I mean, like, the Team Star bosses keep talking about how they aren't bullies and they're the ones that are getting bullied, but like, and that they haven't done anything wrong. But literally the first time we meet Team Star, they're bullying another student, which happens to be their like actual boss. But yeah, and also yeah, so that didn't make sense. And then the third storyline, the gym storyline, was nice because of its simplicity. It was just beat the gyms, become champion, classic Pokemon. And then the Area 0 storyline, which is after the other 3, is where this game really shines, though. I think everybody expected the professors to be evil, but the game completely subverts expectations by killing off the professor years before the game even takes place. The final fight between the player and the professor is like epic, or the fake professor is really epic, and the ending is pretty sad. By the way, I absolutely loved all the banter between the 3 rivals during the adventure through Area 0. That was pretty funny at points. The Pokemon. I don't think there's been a single generation of Pokemon that hasn't had good design, so naturally they've nailed it this time around too. I've already made a video giving my thoughts on each of the new Pokemon, so I'll keep it shorter. Firstly, I'm so glad they've gone back to doing regular cross-gen evolutions. Galar gave evolutions that were like exclusive to the Galar versions of those Pokemon, which was fine for Pokemon like Meowth and Yamask, who already have regular evolutions, but it was a real shame for others. For example, Galar was the region that finally gave an evolution to Farfetch'd, but it was only the Galarian form, which means Cantonian Farfetch'd still sucks. Lununa and Corsola face the same problem as well. Thankfully, they haven't done this time around. They've only introduced 2 new Paldean forms, Wooper and Tauros, which is a bit disappointing, but the abundance of other new Pokemon makes up for it. The new concept of convergent Pokemon, which are the Pokemon that aren't related but look similar to other Pokemon, is really cool, and I hope they continue with it in the future. Speaking of future, Paradox Pokemon are awesome. The future forms were done a bit dirty because like many of them, like the Hydreigon and the Delibird, they look a bit too similar to the originals. The past ones I got no complaints, except for the Jigglypuff. The Jigglypuff looks really ugly, but yeah, that's it for the Paradox Pokemon. The starters were done really well, even though Sprigatito ended up standing up, it still looked pretty cool. The Legendary Quartet is done really well in this game. Instead of having lore shoved down your throat during the main story, you have to go out of your way to find these guys. I remember seeing the sealed gate for Wo-Chien, which is like the grass-type slug one, early in the game, and wondering what the hell that was when I first played through the game. It's also really cool that you can catch the Quartet before the post-game if you want, just like the Legendary Birds in the Kanto games. The characters. The Pokemon franchise is best known for like all the different monsters that the game have to offer, but the characters play a pretty big role in the games too, and SV made a lot of really good ones. The rivals, Nimona, Penny, and Arvin, were all interesting and likable. The gym leaders were great and had a lot of personality, especially my boy Larry, though I personally hated Tulip. The star bosses were entertaining too. The teachers were also surprisingly great for being characters that they're almost completely optional to interact with. The Elite Four was cool, and I liked how they interacted with each other rather than being separated into like separate rooms and being completely unrelated like in previous games. The Terastal gimmick. The Terastal phenomenon seemed like it was much harder to market gimmick than Dynamax Z moves and Megas because there's like no fancy new form or broken move to advertise. In spite of this though, Terastal might actually be my favorite gimmick so far. It's not annoyingly broken like Megas or Z moves, and it doesn't disappear after a set amount of turns like Dynamax. It seems like it's going to have a lot of interesting applications for competitive because of how many possible combinations of Pokemon and type there can be. Also, I like how you have to recharge your Tera Orb after Terastalizing rather than being allowed to use it in every single battle, which means you can't just dunk on every single one of your opponents like with Z moves and Megas, but you're also not limited to only using it in major fights like Dynamax. Improvements from Legends Arceus. I'm really glad they decided to go forward with what Legends Arceus brought to the table rather than scrapping it all for these games. Of course, there are some downgrades like the Pokeball throwing getting worse and not being able to catch Pokemon outside of battle, but the open world concept has finally been fully realized. Unlike Hisui, the entirety of Paldea, other than Mesagoza and Area Zero, is one fully connected world in these games. Better textures for characters in Pokemon. While the graphics of this game are not great, and many areas in the game have undeniably bad textures, the characters in Pokemon are actually pretty good. They look much better than in Sword and Shield. The music. Did it come to anyone as a surprise that the music in Scarlet and Violet absolutely slaps? No matter how good a Pokemon game is, gameplay or quality-wise, it's always guaranteed to have top-notch music. I'm particularly fond of the battle music in Pokemon games, so I'll list off some of my favorites. Penny's battle theme. The music for the final battle with Turo or Asada. The regular Trainer battle music. The legendary Quartet theme. I'd also like to give a shout out to the overworld music for Mesagoza and the school. Though I haven't listened to much of the overworld music on its own, so if there's a theme from this game that you really like, please do mention it in the comments. Alright, one last thing before I end off the video. When did Pokemon games become so in touch with the modern generation? Bars? Cringy? Collab? Why is Game Freak suddenly using all this modern internet culture slang? I absolutely love it. That'll be it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like that like button and subscribe with the notification bell thing on if you want to see more of my videos. Also, this is probably like the most high effort video that I've made on this channel. That's not a difficult bar to reach, but so yeah, hopefully it does well. Thanks for watching. Bye.